This YouTube video was produced with the assistance of artificial intelligence. Specifically, the visuals were generated using ChatGPT, the script was composed using Claude AI, and the narration was synthesized using Edge-TTS. Visual. Definition: relating to seeing or sight, or designed to be perceived, understood, or communicated through images, pictures, or observation rather than words or sound. Collocation: visual representation, visual aid, visual impact, visual learner, visual content. Synonym: graphic, pictorial, optical, illustrative, observable. Example: the marketing team created a striking visual representation of the annual sales data to make the key trends more accessible to all stakeholders. Incorporating visual aids such as charts, diagrams, and infographics into presentations can significantly enhance audience engagement and comprehension. Research suggests that visual learners tend to retain information more effectively when it is presented through images, videos, and spatial arrangements rather than text alone. Logical. Definition: based on clear, sound reasoning and consistent principles, following a natural or sensible order that makes something easy to understand or predict. Collocation: logical conclusion, logical explanation, logical thinking, logical sequence, perfectly logical. Synonym: rational, reasonable, coherent, systematic, analytical. Example: after reviewing all of the available evidence, the committee reached the logical conclusion that the current policy was no longer fit for purpose. The report was praised for presenting its arguments in a clear and logical sequence that even non-specialists could follow without difficulty. It is perfectly logical to assume that increased investment in employee training will lead to measurable improvements in overall organizational performance. Legislation. Definition: laws or a body of laws enacted by a governing authority, or the process of making and passing laws through a legislative body. Collocation: introduce legislation, pass legislation, existing legislation, proposed legislation, legislation on. Synonym: law, regulation, statute, act, ordinance. Example: the government plans to introduce comprehensive legislation aimed at strengthening data protection rights for consumers in the digital marketplace. Existing legislation on workplace safety has been criticized for failing to adequately address the emerging risks associated with remote and hybrid working arrangements. The proposed legislation on environmental standards has generated considerable debate among lawmakers, industry representatives, and environmental advocacy groups alike. Background. Definition: the circumstances, experiences, or knowledge that form the basis of a person's character or understanding, or the less prominent position or setting behind the main focus. Collocation: educational background, cultural background, background information, background knowledge, background check. Synonym: history, experience, context, setting, foundation. Example: candidates from a diverse range of educational and cultural backgrounds are encouraged to apply for the position, as the organization values inclusivity and varied perspectives. The presenter provided essential background information at the beginning of the session to ensure that all participants had a shared understanding of the topic. A thorough background check is a standard part of the recruitment process for any role that involves access to sensitive or confidential company data. Claim. Definition: to state or assert that something is true, often without providing immediate proof, or a demand for something to which one believes they are entitled. Collocation: claim responsibility, make a claim, insurance claim, false claim, claim that. Synonym: assert, declare, contend, maintain, demand. Example: the company claims that its new product is the most energy-efficient model currently available on the market, though independent testing has yet to confirm this. Employees who have been unfairly dismissed have the right to file a formal claim with the labor tribunal within the legally specified timeframe. Several analysts have disputed the government's claim that the economic reforms will benefit all income groups equally, citing data that suggests otherwise. Importance. Definition: the quality of being significant, valuable, or worthy of attention due to the effect or influence something has on a particular outcome or situation. Collocation, great importance of, paramount importance, attach importance to, stress the importance, growing importance. Synonym, significance, value, relevance, weight, consequence. Example, the report stressed the importance of investing in renewable energy infrastructure as a long-term strategy for achieving national carbon reduction targets. Educators continue to attach great importance to the development of critical thinking skills, recognizing their essential role in preparing students for the modern workforce. The growing importance of digital literacy in the workplace has prompted many organizations to integrate technology training into their standard onboarding programs. Eloquent. Definition: fluent, persuasive, and expressive in speaking or writing, able to convey ideas clearly and movingly in a way that has a powerful effect on the audience. Collocation: eloquent speaker, eloquent speech, eloquent argument, eloquent defense, eloquent expression. Synonym: articulate, expressive, fluent, persuasive, powerful. Example, the keynote speaker delivered an eloquent address on the future of sustainable development that moved and inspired everyone in attendance. Her eloquent defense of the proposal during the board meeting ultimately persuaded even the most skeptical members to vote in its favor. The ambassador is widely regarded as one of the most eloquent voices in international diplomacy, known for presenting complex issues with remarkable clarity and grace. Fascinate. Definition: to attract and hold the intense interest and attention of someone, captivating them with something remarkable, unusual, or compelling. Collocation: fascinate audiences, fascinated by, never cease to fascinate, fascinate researchers, deeply fascinated. Synonym: captivate, enchant, intrigue, mesmerize, enthrall. Example, the documentary fascinated audiences around the world by revealing the extraordinary behaviors and social structures of deep-sea marine organisms. She has been deeply fascinated by the intersection of technology and human psychology ever since taking her first course in cognitive science at university. The complexity of the human brain continues to fascinate researchers across multiple disciplines, driving new discoveries in neuroscience and artificial intelligence alike. Creed. Definition: a system of religious or philosophical beliefs, or a set of fundamental principles or values that guide a person's or group's actions and decisions. Collocation: religious creed, political creed, personal creed, regardless of creed, and culture. Synonym: belief, doctrine, faith, ideology, philosophy. Example, the organization is committed to treating all individuals with dignity and respect, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or creed. His personal creed of honesty and transparency in all professional dealings earned him a reputation as one of the most trusted figures in the industry. The founding members established a clear creed that emphasized social responsibility, ethical governance, and a dedication to continuous improvement in every aspect of the organization. Circumvent. Definition: to find a way of avoiding or getting around a difficulty, obstacle, rule, or restriction, often through clever or indirect methods. Collocation: circumvent the law, circumvent regulations, circumvent restrictions, attempt to circumvent the problem. Synonym: bypass, evade, avoid, get around, sidestep. Example, the investigation uncovered evidence that the company had deliberately attempted to circumvent environmental regulations by falsifying emissions data in its official reports. Cybercriminals are constantly developing more sophisticated methods to circumvent the security measures put in place by financial institutions and technology companies. Rather than attempting to circumvent the problem entirely, the team chose to address it directly by redesigning the core architecture of the system from the ground up. Foreshadow. Definition: to serve as a warning, sign, or indication of something that will happen in the future, suggesting what is to come before it actually occurs. Collocation: foreshadow events, foreshadow change, foreshadow the outcome, foreshadow problems, foreshadow a crisis. Synonym: predict, presage, signal, indicate, portend. Example: the unexpected resignation of 3 senior executives in rapid succession appeared to foreshadow a period of significant organizational upheaval within the company. Economists have warned that the recent decline in consumer spending may foreshadow a broader economic slowdown in the months ahead. The early chapters of the novel skillfully foreshadow the dramatic events that unfold in the final act, rewarding attentive readers with subtle clues throughout the narrative. Holistically. Definition: in a way that considers the whole of something rather than just its individual parts, taking into account all interconnected factors and relationships. Collocation: approach holistically, view holistically, think holistically, address holistically, evaluate holistically. Synonym: comprehensively, entirely, wholly, integrally, as a whole. Example: the consultancy firm advised the client to approach the restructuring process holistically, considering the impact on employees, customers, and long-term business strategy simultaneously. Healthcare professionals are increasingly encouraged to evaluate patients holistically, taking into account their physical, emotional, and social well-being rather than focusing solely on symptoms. To solve this issue effectively, we need to think holistically about the interconnected challenges of transportation, housing, and environmental sustainability within the urban planning framework. Individual. Definition: a single person considered separately from a group, or relating to one particular person or thing rather than a collective or shared entity. Collocation: individual needs, individual rights, individual performance, individual responsibility, individual approach. Synonym: person, single, separate, personal, distinct. Example: the program is designed to cater to the individual needs of each participant, offering personalized learning plans based on their specific goals and abilities. Protecting the individual rights of every citizen, regardless of their background or social status, is a fundamental responsibility of any democratic government. The company conducts annual individual performance reviews to identify strengths, address areas for improvement, and set clear objectives for the year ahead. Quote. Definition: to repeat or reproduce the exact words spoken or written by someone else, or a formal statement of the estimated cost of a particular service or product. Collocation: quote a price, direct quote, famous quote, quote from, request a quote. Synonym: cite, repeat, reference, estimate, excerpt. Example: the journalist chose to quote the minister directly to ensure that the official position on the matter was accurately represented in the published article. Before committing to any supplier, it is standard practice to request a detailed quote from at least 3 different vendors for comparison purposes. The professor began the lecture with a thought-provoking quote from a renowned philosopher to set the tone for the discussion on ethics and moral responsibility. Permit. Definition: to give official authorization or consent for something to happen or be done, or an official document that grants such authorization. Collocation: permit access, building permit, work permit, permit the use of, not permitted. Synonym: allow, authorize, grant, license, enable. Example: the local authority requires all construction companies to obtain a valid building permit before commencing any work on new development projects in the area. Employees are not permitted to access confidential client records without prior written authorization from the head of the compliance department. The revised policy now permits the use of personal electronic devices during designated break periods, provided they do not interfere with workplace productivity. Ostensible. Definition: appearing or stated to be true or real on the surface, but possibly concealing the actual or underlying reason, purpose, or nature of something. Collocation: ostensible reason, ostensible purpose, ostensible goal, ostensible aim, ostensible motive. Synonym: apparent, seeming, alleged, supposed, outward. Example: The ostensible reason for the sudden reorganization was to improve operational efficiency, but many employees suspected it was primarily intended to reduce headcount. While the ostensible purpose of the meeting was to discuss quarterly results, it became clear that the real agenda involved addressing unresolved leadership disputes. The ostensible goal of the initiative was to promote community engagement, though critics argued that it was largely a public relations exercise designed to enhance the company's image. Enforce. Definition. To ensure that a law, rule, regulation, or standard is obeyed and followed, often by applying penalties or taking authoritative action against violations. Collocation. Enforce the law, enforce regulations, strictly enforce, enforce compliance, enforce a ban. Synonym. Implement, apply, impose, uphold, execute. Example. The regulatory body has been granted expanded authority to enforce compliance with the new environmental protection standards across all industrial sectors. Local authorities plan to strictly enforce the recently introduced parking regulations in an effort to reduce congestion in the city center during peak hours. Critics have argued that the policy is well-intentioned but fundamentally flawed, as the government lacks the resources and infrastructure needed to enforce it effectively. Natural. Definition. Existing in or derived from nature, not made or caused by human intervention, or expected and understandable given the circumstances. Collocation. Natural resources, natural disaster, natural ability, perfectly natural, natural environment. Synonym. Innate, organic, genuine, normal, inherent. Example. The country's economic development strategy relies heavily on the responsible management and sustainable use of its vast natural resources. It is perfectly natural to experience a degree of anxiety when starting a new job, especially during the first few weeks of adapting to an unfamiliar environment. The documentary explored the devastating impact of recent natural disasters on vulnerable coastal communities and the urgent need for improved early warning systems. Avow. Definition. To declare or state openly, firmly, and publicly that something is true, or to acknowledge one's beliefs, intentions, or feelings without hesitation. Collocation. Openly avow, avow support, avow a belief, avowed commitment, avowed intention. Synonym. Declare, affirm, assert, proclaim, profess. Example. The newly elected leader openly avowed her commitment to tackling corruption at every level of government throughout her term in office. The organization has consistently avowed its support for free speech and the protection of civil liberties in all of the communities it serves. Despite the controversy surrounding the policy, the director avowed his belief that the reforms were essential for the long-term sustainability of the institution. Caution. Definition. Great care and attention taken to avoid danger, risk, or mistakes, or a warning given to someone to be careful about potential consequences. Collocation. Exercise caution, urge caution, word of caution, proceed with caution, treat with caution. Synonym. Care, prudence, vigilance, warning, alertness. Example. Financial regulators have urged investors to exercise caution when considering high-yield opportunities that may carry significant and often underestimated levels of risk. A word of caution for those considering the new software update. Several users have reported compatibility issues with older operating systems and hardware configurations. The committee recommended that the organization proceed with caution before committing substantial resources to a project that has not yet been fully evaluated for feasibility.